welcome to Kourou for Ariane Express Flight 118 with Telecom 1. Commentary in English for this launch is by Mr. Chichika.
And Simon Hayes.
Et puis en français par Guy Duvaux.
Thank you, Simon. Bienvenue à Kourou pour tous ceux qui nous regardent à l'occasion de ce lancement Ariane 4 vol 118 avec Telecom 1. Nous saluons tous ceux qui en Guyane vont assister à ce lancement, ainsi qu'en Europe.
And in Washington, Tokyo and Jakarta.
We are approaching the end of the 14.5-hour countdown for Flight 118. All systems are go. All launch authorization parameters on the status panel are green. Let's keep it that way. We have a window of nearly 2 hours for this launch, and it's looking good for liftoff, not much more than 27 minutes from now.
Our first piece of film was shot 5 hours ago when the gantry was rolled back off the launcher. In real time, it takes not the few seconds you'll observe in this clip, but a full hour to shift this huge structure, 98 meters high and weighing 3,800 metric tons, a distance scarcely more than its height. With the gantry withdrawn, third stage fueling with liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen can commence. The very low temperature of these propellants, minus 250 degrees Celsius, requires preliminary chilling of the fueling circuits. The complete operation takes over 3 hours, tailing off just 5 minutes before liftoff. In this state, Ariane is secured and stabilized only by the launch table clamps and the cryogenic arms. But now, a step back in time with a film resume of the launcher preparation campaign.
The launcher campaign, lasting 25 working days for the Ariane 42P, was conducted in 2 phases. The first 2-week phase was spent in the preparation zone assembly dock. This involved first erection of the first stage with its 4 engine on the mobile launch table, then mating of the second stage with its single engine with the first stage, then assembly of the cryogenic third stage, which burns liquid oxygen and hydrogen with the 2 lower stages, and finally integration of the vehicle equipment bay, which incorporates the onboard computer and other launcher command and control electronics with the third stage. Following the interval already mentioned, the second phase of the launcher campaign commenced less than 3 weeks ago. The launcher was rolled out to the forward zone for final preparation, including a rehearsal of third stage fueling 10 days back, and the gantry was brought up and closed over the launcher for final pre-launch operation.
We are using an Ariane 42P for this, the third launch of 1999. This will be the 87th flight by an Ariane 4 and the 13th time this version has flown. Total liftoff mass is 323 metric tons, and maximum thrust on liftoff will be 4,007 kilonewtons.
I'm going to show you some footage of the Telecom 1 satellite campaign. This is the third Ariane launch for Indonesia, following Palapa C2 in 1996 and Chakravarta 1 in 1997. This confirms the very strong Ariane Express position in the Asia-Pacific zone. More on this later.
The Toucan normally stages and boosters from Europe to Kourou was available on this occasion to bring the Telecom 1 spacecraft down from Port Canaveral in Florida, docking in Kourou on 6th July. The spacecraft was then transferred to the S1B preparation facility for its initial system checkout. Telecom 1 was then moved to the S3B facility only 1 kilometer from the pad for the hazardous operation phase. These include spacecraft fueling. We see the fuelmen in the escape suites, which incorporates autonomous racing equipment engaged in this task. This was followed by the combined launcher spacecraft operation phase. Telecom 1 was mounted on its payload adapter, the actual interface with the launcher, and encapsulated in the fairing. Transfer to the pad took place on Thursday last, when Telecom 1 was hoisted to the spacecraft platform and mated with the launcher the following day.
Telecom 1 was built by Lockheed Martin Space Systems. Its standard geostationary transfer orbit apogee will be at 35,785 kilometers and final orbit position at 108 degrees east. A quick virtual helicopter flip now on our way to visit the Launch Control Center, the CDL. We're now inside the CDL, and to show us around, Jean-Pierre Chapelle. The CDL team is headed by the Quail, freely translated from the French as Launch Site Operations Manager. Philippe Hers, in the red shirt, is in the Quail hot seat for tonight's launch of Flight 118. His team comprises specialists in the various disciplines involved: electronics, telemetry, propellants, safety, and so on. Their task is to supervise and cross-check all final preparation procedures on the launcher itself and the other ground components of the complete system: the mobile launch table, umbilical tower, fueling systems. The Quail and CDL team, like all other operational personnel, are designated specifically for each launch campaign. All disciplines and responsibilities are covered several times over. This means it is relatively rare for the same specialist to take on same assignment for 2 consecutive flights. Some more film now, which provides a broad overview of the organization, industrial partners and production facilities backing Ariane's launch activities. This clip is intended principally for those of you joining us for your first Ariane launch broadcast. Hope you're enjoying the show so far. We'll be back after the break.
Versatile. Flexible. Powerful.
Attention pour le début de la séquence synchronisée. Top moins 7 minutes.
Donc les H0 moins 3 minutes. Correct.
Déroulement correct.
À tous, vidéo, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Top. Allumage Vulcain.
Ignition of main engine.
Allumage ERP.
Solid boosters ignition.
Décollage.
Lift off.
Propulsion normale.
Propulsion normal.
Tous les paramètres sont normaux à bord.
All systems normal.
Trajectoire normale.
All okay on board.
Ready to serve your business.
back into real time. All is still green, and that includes weather conditions. The last report was good, and we'll have the final pre-window of pre-launch prospects just 10 minutes before liftoff time T. 17.5 minutes to go, so we have time for one more excursion outside the commentary cabin. Over to you, Simon.
I'm in front of the Jupiter 2 building, which houses the Ariane Launch Mission Control Center. We're at the end of the 4-month gap in launch operations, and as this period has been rich in other space-related events, we're going to show you a film summary, starting with the European Space Agency Ministerial Conference in Brussels in May. The European Space Agency Council meeting at ministerial level, which took place in Brussels on May 11th and 12th, produced a number of important decisions for Ariane activities, most notably regarding funding for phases 2 and 3 of the Ariane Plus Performance Enhancement Programme. This set the scene for Arianespace to issue a second Ariane 5 production order for 20 launches. The 1000th Viking engine used for the Ariane 4 first and second stages and liquid propellant boosters came off the SEP SNECMA production line. The occasion for an appropriate ceremony, not to mention celebrations at the SEP Vernon plant. Pictures now of the Flight 117 liftoff, the second launch of 1999 carrying INSAT 2E, which provided another typical example of Ariane orbit injection accuracy, in emulation of Flight 116 5 weeks earlier, which launched Arabsat 3A and Skynet 4E. News of all three of these spacecraft is good. The extended pause in launch operations has been used to good purpose. Extensive maintenance work has been carried out on the Ariane 4 launch site to ensure maximum launch capacity and flexibility. The Ariane 5 final preparation building is being altered to cater for the future cryogenic upper stage version, and the ELA-3 flame chutes have been modified to ensure improved payload acoustic conditions. Work has also continued on the new preparation facility for super heavy and other new types of payload.
The very perturbed satellite schedules that we observe right now demand from Arianespace a great level of flexibility in terms of mission analysis, in terms of the use of our satellite preparation facilities here at CSG, and to use very reduced margins between two launches.
Third stage fueling with the very low temperature liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen propellants, which can only be done immediately before launch because of the temperature problem, and that is almost finished. And for latecomers, we are less than 15 minutes from scheduled liftoff.
Production time in mission control, so I must dash back to the commentary cabin to give Message Chittiger a hand. I'll be right back.
And now some introductions we'd like you to meet. First, the Range Operations Manager, the DDO, for Flight 118, Philippe Mauvin. Almost immediately after liftoff, the DDO will begin feeding us with launcher in-flight status information.
Ils sont ouverts tous les deux.
We'll tell you how he gets this information at the appropriate time. And alongside him,
oh, that was quick, never run so fast, the Arianespace mission director for this launch, Didier Cassé, and now in camera also meet Jean Rossignol, Arianespace COO. He heads the flight command cell for tonight's launch. An impressive title, Flight Command Cell. So what is its actual function, Masoud?
well, in fact, the Flight Command Cell normally has a strictly supervisory function and only intervenes in the event of a major problem. For example, where a decision to go ahead with a launch or stop the count has to be taken. This can also involve consultation with the satellite customer. Support is also permanently available from the project room at Arianespace headquarters in Évry, near Paris, in France.
And we're going to continue the introductions.
Tom Dodd, launch vehicle manager, Lockheed Martin. Alan McLiverty, satellite program manager, Lockheed Martin. And now Trevor Lewis, consultant,
And finishing up this row, David Kostiva, Satellite Mission Director for Telecom. And we come to the PT Telecom film.
PT Telekomunikasi Indonesia, or Telkom, is the state-owned telecommunication operator in Indonesia. To support its expansion plans, it went public in 1995 and listed in New York Stock Exchange, London Stock Exchange, Jakarta Stock Exchange, and Surabaya Stock Exchange. Telkom bears the responsibilities to serve and provide links uniting Indonesian archipelago. Besides, PT Telecom contains important and strategic position in sustaining Indonesian national development. To improve its services, PT Telecom had launched communication satellites and built transmitters across Indonesia. In parallel with Indonesian economic and social developments, Telkom appends its services to include intelligence network, integrated service digital network, personal exchange, fiber to the crub, telematic terminal, and to expand its fiber optic network based on synchronous digital hierarchy. These facilities and services benefit business, education, and socio-political environment in Indonesia. They link inter-island communication and global network as well. However, PT Telecom has never been satisfied. It continuously and restlessly aims to improve its products and customer services. Its customer service, technical operators, and engineers perform their tasks around the clock, diligently and excellently. It also develops and tests information technologies through its research facilities or RISTI and establishes partnerships and joint ventures with several world operators. Telkom also builds cooperative working relationship with well-known universities and institutes to increase and strengthen its human resources knowledge and ability. Moreover, Telkom also provides scholarships to send its employees achieving higher education and qualification program abroad. The management carefully designs and formulates future expansion plan. PT Telecom also establishes and employs a comprehensive training center to enhance its employees' knowledge and expertise. These efforts is to achieve its primary goals. Becoming the Indonesian best and world-class operator.
So, you've been listening to the final weather report message. What do we have?
We have good news. All is well with no risk of adverse conditions inside the safety radius and throughout the launch window. Remember, Simon, we have a nearly 2-hour margin.
And who have we got here? Dodit Hendroyono, Telecom 1 Coordinator. Bort Eilertsen, Ariane Space Payload Manager. And Arifin Nurkrovo, Telecom 1 Program Manager. And in a moment we're going to show you a few moments in the customer team's time at work and play during the satellite campaign.
Yeah, bye. You have to catch something.
Yeah. Tower is completed. Activities will start line 1 at 6 o'clock. With the composite line 1, fairing closure, just clamp down flight tensioner.
Apart from those here in mission control, satellite personnel are all variously in the CDL and the S1 building. Nail-biting time for them also.
Yes, they can only wait like everyone else until their next tasks begin after Telecom 1 separation.
And our last piece of film, Ariane 5 logistics. From the Seine to Kourou, from the ice and snow of Europe to the equatorial heat of French Guiana. Logistics, so frequently understated, are very much at the heart of the success of Ariane. This is why dedicated resources have been developed for such tasks as launcher transport. This includes the recently commissioned Ariane 5 carrier ship, the MN Toucan. The Toucan is a veritable ocean-going launcher ferry of impressive dimensions. 96 meters long, with a beam of 17 meters and a height of 8 meters above the waterline, and with a large afterdeck. Following pickups in Bremen and Rotterdam, the Toucan leaves the port of Le Havre by night on course for French Guiana. Arrival in the Kourou Channel is by day.
C'est un bateau très difficile pour le chenalage, mais il manœuvre très bien.
And a few words from the port of Kourou pilot. The Toucan is a difficult ship to navigate in a narrow channel. However, it handles very well. It has the right equipment and a good crew who know their job. That's what makes the task much easier.
We're a little more than 6.5 minutes from the end of the count, which has been running now for over 14 hours.
And the third stage tanks will be topped off and fully pressurized in about 1 minute from now. We're approaching a fundamental change in the launcher control situation. This will occur 6 minutes before time T, first stage ignition, when we enter the synchronized sequence. Explanations when we get there. And for the moment, our status panel is still like the Emerald Isle.
À tous de DDO. Attention pour le début de la séquence synchronisée. Top H0 moins 6 minutes.
And we're now inside the 6-minute synchronized sequence, and control of the launcher has switched from the human operators to the 2 ground computers in the Launch Control Center. The reason for this is no mystery. During the final phase of the count, the mass of data to be collected, sorted, and processed, and above all checked, is so vast that the quantity of command signals to be generated and transmitted is so great that the task could not be handled in so short a time, even with hundreds of additional personnel. So what, in fact, actually happens, Mesut?
It confirms...
And we have, in fact, the latest weather picture of this zone. What does it tell us, Mesut?
Well, Simon, everything is fine. It confirms the clearance we had a few minutes back. No immediate threat of electrical storms in our backyard.
That's good. And we have third stage topping off completed.
Coming back to your earlier question, as you said, control switches to the 2 ground computers, and all resources used in the launch systems are synchronized on a common final countdown sequence, hence the name. One computer configures the fluid and propellant systems for flight and executes the associated checkout routines. The other carries out similar tasks for preparation of the electrical systems. This includes initiation of the flight program, startup of the 2 servo motors, switch over from ground to onboard power, and so on. The computers also cross-check each other.
And the launch time has now been loaded in the onboard computer. If we have a red state come up for any reason inside the synchronized sequence, the count returns to -6 minutes. The launcher is returned to the safety state and we go on hold. I hope we won't need to explain what happens then. And better later than never, we would like to say a more personal hello to our viewers on the observation sites here in French Guiana, including Mission Control itself, of course, 7 sites in France, viewers taking the Space Night TV program in Germany, viewers in Washington, D.C. in the US, and Tokyo, Japan, and with a special word of greeting once again to those of you in Jakarta.
Now satellites switch to onboard power.
And we keep peeping into the CDL with the computers in charge. They may want to relax, but that's just not possible at the present time. They do have an override function after all, do they not, Mesut?
Indeed, yes, Simon. Manual override is possible at any time during the synchronized sequence up to 5 seconds before the ignition of the main engines.
And would the project team in Evry be involved in such a situation?
Well, this could happen. The project room is a kind of a miniature CDL staffed by experts who monitor everything that is going on in the CDL and on the launch site, and who can provide expert advice in case of need remotely.
Well, the satellite's been sitting up on top of the launcher for quite a while now, obviously in a controlled environment in the same way as from start of manufacture even. So how is this achieved on the launch pad, Mesut?
Temperature, humidity and pressure conditions are controlled via the umbilical tower from the moment the payload is hoisted to the top of the launcher, continuing after gantry removal, and only terminating when the umbilical plugs are disconnected as liftoff occurs.
Well, in a moment now, here we are. We have a close-up of the cryogenic fueling arms, which are still coupled to the third stage valve plates. With the fueling task completed, the arms continue to provide a stabilizing function after gantry withdrawal. 2 cameras are used to produce this squashed launcher effect. You see it now. And we shall see this shot again when the arms open just 5 seconds before first stage ignition. The tracking stations, the downrange tracking stations, must be on full alert now, Mesut.
Yes, Simon. Of course, the Kourou and Cayenne radar stations locked onto the launcher on the pad a while back and have been steadily tracking a stationary object ever since.
And in just 2 seconds, we have the third stage motors armed. Tension is just about peaking here in mission control in the CDL and the S1 building as we wait for the first of the 3 key events of the flight, namely liftoff. And a final call to order for very latecomers. Drinks down, gentlemen, please. Face the screen for Ariane Espace Flight 118 with Telecom 1.
À tous de DDO. Attention pour moins 1 minute. Top H0 moins 1 minute.
We're inside the final minute.
The launcher is on onboard power.
And time to wish the Telecom 1 teams, wherever they are, good luck, fellas. Fly safely.
The servo motors are armed.
And we shall have release of the inertial guidance platform at -9 seconds. The cryogenic arms will open at -5 seconds. First stage ignition at time T. And the launch table clamps will open at +4.2 seconds for Ariane liftoff. Now it's up to the DDO, the ground computers, and the flight program in that order.
À tous de DDO. Attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Top. Allumage.
We have ignition. We have liftoff.
Décollage. Paramètres bord normaux. Le pilotage est normal.
We'll leave the picture to speak for itself for a little while.
Tous les paramètres bord sont normaux. Extinction des papes.
We have a steady burn, and now we have burnout of the solid propellant boosters.
Tous les paramètres bord sont normaux.
And the announcements are flooding through from the DDO, announcing that all onboard data is nominal. We've had the tilt maneuver, and we notice the widening climb angle as altitude increases. And you may just catch the rumble of Ariane. We can hear it clearly as the launcher passes almost exactly above the Jupiter building. We're now a minute and a half into mission. Altitude 12.5 kilometers.
Séparation des propulseurs d'appoint à poudre.
And we have the announcement of the booster separation. We're tracking at the moment.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux.
We're tracking at the moment from the radar stations at Kourou and Cayenne, and as we hand over to the downrange stations, we shall tell you the details as they occur. 2 minutes into mission, Ariane is already supersonic. And we have the trajectory plot on our screen now for a while, so I think this is the time to give some explanation. Masoud?
Yes, now we are 139 seconds into the flight, and altitude is reached to almost 30 kilometers, and we are cruising with almost like a kilometer per second speed. That's we see at the bottom of the screen with V parameter.
And on the trajectory curve, you will notice there is a little cross inside a little circle. The circle represents theoretical position of the launcher on its trajectory, and the cross is actual, so it is looking very accurate at the moment. We are now 3 minutes into mission.
And over 50 kilometers on altitude, and speed is a little more than 1.5 kilometers per second.
And we continue to hear from the DDO that onboard data is nominal. And there are two processes which are carrying on as we climb up. One of them is the venting of the fairing. A word on that, Masoud?
Well, that is the adjustment of the payload compartment pressure-wise until the fairing jettisoning. That's going to happen.
And the other, of course, is chill down of the fuel circuits of the third stage, the valves and the pipes.
Yeah, that is to do because we have the liquid oxygen and hydrogen is very, very low temperature. But that's going to start almost like 1 minute, 1.5 minutes before the third stage ignition.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux.
And we're approaching separation of the fairing, which will now be no longer needed as we get into the thinner upper layers of the atmosphere.
Of course, the idea is to get rid of the parts not needed anymore.
Indeed, this is part of the regular, and then we have a computer-assisted the mass loss process is
continuous
and absolutely essential. Any spurious mass is shed at the very first possible moment.
Les paramètres bord sont stables.
We have to use the propellants very intelligently.
Indeed. And we are now 5 minutes into mission with about 30 seconds to go to stage 3 shutdown. Altitude nearly 150 kilometers, now we've hit it, and our speed is up to over 4 kilometers per second.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux et stables.
And my little conversion chart tells me that that is the equivalent of 14,500 odd kilometers per hour.
Extinction deuxième étage.
Burnout of stage 2.
Séparation deuxième étage.
Separation in stages 2 and 3.
Allumage troisième étage.
And the second key event in the flight, ignition of stage 3. A word perhaps about separation procedures, Masoud. How do we get the two stages apart?
Well, through the pyrotechnic separation cord, which detaches the stages
Trajectoire normale,
from each other.
paramètres bord normaux.
And also acceleration and de-acceleration rockets used to push of the stages from each other.
Right. And we're coming
Pilotage
up
normal.
to the next downrange station acquisition, which will be Natal in just a few seconds' time. We have a 4-minute overlap between coverage, radar coverage, between Kourou Cayenne and then Natal. Anyway, it's we've now settled
Acquisition par la
into,
station de télémesure de Natal.
and then we have the announcement of acquisition by Natal in Brazil.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux.
We've settled into the long burn time for the third stage, which is over 12 minutes, and it's really time we talked some more about our passenger Telecom 1 and a little bit perhaps about the customer PT Telekomunikasi Indonesia. Rashid.
Yes, we can say a few words about Telecom 1. Telecom 1 is primarily designed for direct TV broadcasting, telephony and multimedia services, manufactured by Lockheed Martin. It is the third Indonesian spacecraft to be launched by Ariane. Telecom 1 will ensure SATCOM service continuity for Indonesia's leading operator, PT Telekomunikasi Indonesia. I hope I said it right. Indonesia is one of the first countries that set up a satellite system in the Asia-Pacific zone. Telecom 1 spacecraft has 36 transponders, 24 of them are C-band transponders and the other 12 are extended C-band transponders, and has a predicted orbit life of 15 years concerning the station keeping fuel needed for the spacecraft.
Right, and looking at your trajectory chart, you'll see that we're coming up to a peak, and then this will be followed by a dip, and the trajectory, as announced by the DDO, is absolutely spot on.
Yes.
The trajectory dips in a few moments' time. Explanation?
Well, that is again, that is the calculated trajectory, which is to use the onboard fuel intelligently. We're losing the altitude, but we're gaining speed, and then we're going to pick up the altitude again after this dip. It's basically a
slingshot.
Exactly. This is, using the onboard propellant intelligently to arrive the injection orbit.
Right, and we are now about 9.5 minutes burn time to go with stage 3. Well, let's talk a bit about our postponement, because it was not all bad. As we heard at the beginning of the broadcast, our 8-day postponement was made necessary by the replacement of a third stage latch valve relay box. What did this involve for the launcher, that is, Rashid?
Well, this is our quality assurance program. As you can see, that following electrical system anomaly observed during one of the similar third stage engines acceptance test in Vernon facility in France, one of the 4 electro valve interface units of that particular engine showed a presence of a metallic particle causing a short. And then decision has been made to subject all these electro valve interface units to a visual inspection, followed by a quick acceptance test program to prove their flight integrity and change the existing ones already integrated on the third stage engines. This process resulted with 8 days delay for the Telecom 1 launch.
Les paramètres bord sont normaux.
Which was originally scheduled for 4th of August, as we all know. A new launch date of August 12th allowed us the component change-out procedure to be implemented, and the time required for final verifications and resumption of the launch countdown for a good, safe launch.
And you'll notice that the altitude is about to decline very slightly, and
but we're gonna,
more substantially later on.
We're going to see that speed is going to increase as the altitude is getting less.
Indeed. Anyway, coming back to our subject, inside the gantry, the payload platform is a sealed, clean room, air-conditioned area, of course. But what special actions had to be taken in regard to the satellite during the extra waiting time on top of the launcher? And before you answer, we have just lost signal by Kourou, but of course we still have overlap with Natal before we pick up the launcher by Ascension Island.
Well, first of all, Telecom 1 spacecraft has never been exposed to gantry. It was in its fairing and payload compartment. The Flight 118 launcher remained inside this 98-meter tall and, like you said, climate-controlled gantry at the LA2 launch zone. The Telecom 1 spacecraft was always protected inside the payload fairing and continuously monitored by the Lockheed Martin launch team. I believe they continued trickle charging of the batteries and maintained the spacecraft in very safe and good condition.
Fine. Well, with the machine now running again, namely the Ariane launch system, it'll be a question of packing them in for many months to come. We have 2 Ariane 4 launches scheduled for September. So what about after that message?
Well, 4 more to go to the end of the year, the last one being the Ariane 504 launch for XMM spacecraft. And we believe we're going to achieve this in minimum of 6 launches after tonight's one, which we have shown this during the second halves of 97 and 98. We had a similar picture because of the spacecraft readiness problems.
Okay, well, one benefit of the launch layoff has been that we've been able to get ahead with the game with the ground facility maintenance, and we have 6 minutes of propulsion time left, burn time left on stage 3. And this has very fortunately been the case, as we have this tightly packed manifest for the next 12 months at least. Work has also been proceeding, I understand, with the new EPCU 2000 payload complex. And I noticed that this is some distance from the S1 and S3 buildings. Why is this, Masud?
Well, the idea is putting this new facility for the S1 and S3 activities in the same zone. It's going to give us additional payload processing capacity. As we all know that sometimes spacecraft readiness schedules causing a lot of concern for the manifest, and actually launch manifest becomes a very dynamic launch planning. Having this extra facilities, it's going to give us chance and flexibility to process more spacecraft parallel and to recover from this latent surprises.
Okay, well, the words more spacecraft makes me think of new contracts.
Yes.
What's the situation with new business this year, Masud? The market in general is fairly depressed for a number of reasons, but how has Arianespace been doing during the year so far?
Well, so far so good. We have signed a total of 6 launch contracts since the beginning of this year, 99. Some number of contracts are still in negotiations. They're in process. We expect this signed contract number to be doubled by end of this year in minimum.
And in fact, we have gone over the 200 mark.
Yes, and our backlog after this Telecom 1 launch will be 41 spacecraft remain to be launched.
And we have less than 4 minutes burn time with stage 3. Well, a word now, I think, about Ariane 5, because this is very much an ongoing situation. And we have loss of signal by Natal. The launcher for flight 504 has been, the Ariane 5 launcher for 504 has been in Kourou for a considerable time already. It's ready to go, but it's been stuck for passengers. But we now have a relatively firm launch date and a definite passenger.
That's, yes, we're going to launch XMM 504, but then we have 6, approximately 6 Ariane 5 launches that we forecast for year 2000. We want to start the Millennium the next century with some number of Ariane 5 launches.
And of course, Ariane 4 will carry on for quite a while yet, alongside Ariane 5. Added flexibility for Arianespace.
Of course, of course. And during your film also, that you mentioned that cryogenic upper stage modifications that we were
La trajectoire est normale, les paramètres sont normaux.
Build facility.
Yes.
Well, with that, hopefully by end of 2001 or early 2002, we're expecting Ariane 5 payload lift-off capacity to be increased almost 9.6 tons with the cryogenic second stage.
And we have 2 minutes of burn time left with stage 3. Altitude is down, all right, but it's going up again, down below the 200 mark, and velocity is nearly 8.5 kilometers per second, with a target figure of 9.7 for orbit injection. 9.7 kilometers per second is 35,000 kilometers per hour, faster than you and I can run.
Of course, and many of us.
We've talked about Ariane flexibility and adaptability in regard to volatile payload availability, but another big plus for Ariane, of course, is orbit injection precision.
Yes, orbit injection precision is one of our features, which with good performance, good injection orbit is, that means more propellant life and a better orbit raising chances for the passenger.
Surely.
And it is achieved by the good, accurate electronic systems of the attitude control subsystem.
Indeed. And we have less than a minute to go before shutdown of stage 3. We have, in fact, about 35 seconds now. And I think we'll wait for the event.
And I believe with this performance of tonight, we're going to maintain the forecasted flight reserve in the third stage fuel tanks.
Indeed. You will notice a difference in terminology when we come to the moment, because we are going to shut down the stage 3 engine.
Powered flight is almost end.
Extinction troisième étage.
Shutdown of stage 3. Shutdown.
Acquisition par la station télémesure de Libreville.
And we have the launcher picked up by the telemetry tracking station in Libreville, with about 1 minute overlap with Ascension Island. Now we have the SCAR procedure in process between now and separation of Telecom 1 in a couple of minutes' time.
Yes, this SCAR phase is a very important phase now. Of course, the third stage powered flight phase is very important. Now, a launcher, electronic brain of the launcher now controls the orientation and separation sequences for the Telecom 1 satellite. It prepares the separation second for the Telecom 1 spacecraft. And we achieve this using the gaseous hydrogen through this attitude control subsystem thrusters of the third stage.
We should have separation in just under a minute.
By the way, our interpretation for this phase is a space ballet. It's a space ballet.
Indeed, a very apt description. And we have lost signal by Ascension. We are tracking by Libreville alone now. And we have half a minute to go before the third key event of this flight. And our velocity is almost up to the 9.7 mark I told you about.
Now launcher ensures all the separation conditions now.
Séparation Telecom.
And we have the announcement of separation of our payload, our passenger tonight, Telecom 1. I think we could explain, Message, very quickly why the announcement came something like 30-35 seconds after the actual event in real time.
Well, DDO flight director gets this information from Montagne de Pair telemetry center that we gather all the spacecraft real-time telemetry from the downrange stations. Sometimes the arrival of this telemetry and the process of it, it takes some time. That's the little time difference that resulted. The man in charge, the responsible person from the Montagne de Pair, gives this information directly to DDO, and then DDO announces in Jupiter, as we see also from the screens.
Right, and just a quick word about the future of Telecom 1. The first acquisition by the Guam satellite tracking station should occur 52 minutes after liftoff. The first Apogee engine burn 26.5 hours after liftoff. The solar panels should be deployed in about 5 days from now. Testing should be completed by early October, by which time the satellite should be operational. And we're going to have our first replay.
Allumage. Décollage. Paramètres bord normaux. Le pilotage est normal. Tous les paramètres bord sont normaux. Extinction des papes.
Well, that looked almost as good as the first time round. One thing we should, one quick word about avoidance and passivation, I think, just to reassure people. Mesut?
Well, after the separation of Telecom 1 spacecraft, the launcher, or what is the remaining part of the launcher, has to go away, and we have to separate the bodies as much as possible to prevent any physical contact of these two bodies. And with some orientation maneuvers, the launcher starts getting away from the separated spacecraft, and that's the avoidance maneuver.
And we're going to have another replay before the speeches.
Top. Allumage. Décollage. Paramètres bord normaux.
And before the speeches commence, I have an important announcement to make. As most of you know, yesterday's attempted total eclipse was not entirely successful, so we're going for a fresh try tomorrow at the same time. We're into the count, and it looks good for eclipse in just over 10 hours from now. Well, this is when the relaxation is really showing itself. The tension has been particularly long on this occasion, with the 8-day postponement, a strain for everybody, and the nerves which came close to snapping only 25 minutes back, are now unburdened. Well, as always, the success of this flight paves the way for the next Ariane Espace launch, which we'll hear about in a moment, no doubt, from Jacques Rossignol, COO of Ariane Espace.
Well, a few words as it needs to be. First, this launch was followed by our friend in Jakarta. I guess there was many people over there, but I have to name Mr. Giri Suseno, Minister of Transport and Telecom, who was here last week, but unfortunately could not attend his launch. Mr. Tanera Beng, Minister of State Companies, and Mr. Nasution, President and Director of Telecom. So I'd like to address my congratulations for this success to them. Indonesia was the third country to use telecommunication by satellite after the US and Canada. So it was a great pleasure for us when Indonesia selected Ariane Espace to launch Telecom 1. As a matter of fact, it's the third time we have been selected by Indonesia, and we are extremely pleased to offer Indonesia this success. The satellite project is a long process. It's an expensive process. It's extend over 2.5 years or something like that. But we have to recognize that probably the launch phase is the most critical. So it's a great relief for us, obviously, and for your project to be successfully launched tonight. It is, as all of you know here, the 45th success in a row for Ariane Espace. We have launched successfully for more than 4.5 years out of Kourou. So we have to congratulate our team from Ariane Espace, from CNES, from our industrial partner, for their dedication to the safety of the launch. Our customer recognized that, because I am glad to announce today that we have signed last week 3 more contracts. So after this launch tonight, we have a launch backlog of 43 launches. And the next launch will occur September 1st. As we have been late for a week on this launch, we are trying to recover to match our objective to launch 8 times from now and 7 times now from today to the end of the year. So it's a great challenge, but as I said, the team are ready and really extremely strong and motivated to achieve it. So Mr. Dadat Kustiva.
Thank you. Praise be all to God, the Almighty, that has granted us all the good things during this campaign a few minutes ago. And this is an indication of a very strong commitment of PT Telekomunikasi Indonesia to serve our customer and the people of Indonesia by providing satellite transmission facilities with the latest technology for at least 20 years from now. And of course, at the end of these campaigns, I would like to submit my gratitude to Ariane Space, to Lockheed Martin, Telesat, and also to Telecom people for their best performance, their strong support and serious support, and most of all, for their best trust and teamwork. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, top. Allumage. Décollage. Paramètres bord normaux. Le pilotage est normal.
Well, it still looks as good as ever, as good as ever. And that is probably the last of the replays. And before we round it all off, my co-commentator, Mr. Chichika, would like to say a few words.
Thanks, Simon, for this opportunity. This is one of the last missions that I did it for Ariane to Kourou. Next week, that'll be my last week working for Ariane, and then I will be going to the other side of the ocean to continue my professional life. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all my colleagues at Ariane, at CSG, at CNES for their support, continued support that they've shown towards me, and all my customers, all our customers, for their beautiful and very meaningful cooperation that they have shown towards me. And I wish all the best for Ariane.